Hello, my name is Jennifer Ponder. Welcome to Taking Up Space, Create Your Own Pathway to Leadership in Tech. I'm very excited to give this talk today as I want to share with you my journey through technology and some of the things that I did to create my own pathway to leadership in technology and what that also could look like for you if you're in the planning stages of looking at your career path in technology and if you want to pursue a technology related role. So, some things about me: I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm currently the Director of Technology at Common Council Foundation, and I'm also the National Program Director at STEM Atlanta Women. So you can find me involved in the community as a board member for SCORE Incorporated. We help girls with STEM related project-based learning. And also, I am an Atlanta chapter co-lead for Talk Tech Association Atlanta. And also, I'm a mentor here at the Black Technology Mentorship Program. So some hobbies, things that I like to do. I know right now we're more so in the virtual space and we have a lot going on in regards to the pandemic. But back before now, I love to travel. I love to scuba dive and also learning about new tech tools. So that's something that really I love to do, and my passion for technology and sharing my passion with others, I really love to do that. So let's get into our agenda for today. So we're going to define what taking up space means and what that looks like. Also expand on how to take up space in tech, an overview of leadership roles in tech, and how to cultivate your path in tech. Also, how can you be a leader in the community and projects to start right now. So what does it mean to take up space? So when we think in the literal sense of the definition of this, to fill or occupy space, right? When you're taking up space. But really, let's just dive into what this could mean as far as ourselves into, moving into our career path and really, getting our bearings, really recognizing the validity of our voice, activating the courage and fearlessness to pursue your own goals in your own way. So these are ways, that you can really recognize how you can take up space in a particular, you know, physical sense, or also too in a sense of just thinking about how you want to show up in the world. So these are some of the things that helped me to define, moving into my path, in my career path in the technology space. So here's a quote that I like by Shonda Rhimes. I always think that's the most important thing, to feel like you belong in every room you're in. So how many times have we felt like this? I know a lot of times, we always hear those words, imposter syndrome, and the fear. And sometimes it is a bit challenging, but we have to lean back into ourselves and have the confidence to know that we belong in every room we're in. And we do. There may be also discussions too that you may feel like you can't be a part of, you're not sure, but those are the times when you can lean in and just say, hey, I may not know a lot about this, but I'm willing to learn more. So really always just knowing that you belong in every room that you're in, and there's always something to learn from others. So two ways we take up space in the physical sense. We can think about, physically making a stance. This can directly translate into how we feel on the inside. And also, this can outwardly give clues about our confidence level. So when we think about how we face the day, so some days we may have our head held up high, great posture, to other folks that can look like, well, wow, that person has a lot of confidence. They're showing up in a great way, and some people may outwardly say, well, gosh, I wish I had their confidence. I want to show up like them. And then some days we can feel like, we're not having such a great day. It could be a sad day. It could be a day we're in a bad mood. Our confidence level is just not where it needs to be for the day. And sometimes we may be slouched over. Our posture is not as great. But, this can, outwardly give clues about our confidence level and the space that we're taking up in different ways. So just going back again to taking up space with words, finding the strength to feel that your voice is valid. So the days where we feel like, hey, our heads held up high, we have great posture, we can talk in any room. We may feel that, we want to project ourselves. We want to, have all the confidence in the world. But even the days where we don't feel like, we're as confident, or we may be too shy, we still want to make sure that, we're feeling like our voice is valid. And, you want to have that confidence, because I know we all can't have, the best of days. And sometimes when you're in the middle of a project, or, if you are at a meetup and you want to talk to folks about something, but you're not sure, feel confident. Even if you're not sure of the answers, really feel confident to ask questions. Let folks know, like, hey, I may not be the expert on this right now, but I'd love to learn more. I want to dive in deep. So it's just basically about finding the strength to feel your voice is valid, and basically feeling confident in yourself that you are supposed to be in the room. So how can you take up space in tech? These are the different ways, just diving a little bit deeper here. Think about as an individual contributor. So this could be if you're a software engineer, UX designer, if you're not sure of which things that you want to do, which projects you want to work on, here's some ideas for you. So sharing your knowledge as an individual contributor, how you can take up space out on the airwaves, really doing Twitch streams, doing YouTube streams, really showing folks your projects online, even writing technical blogs on Medium or LinkedIn. The next thing, coding to make an impact. If you like to do hackathons, or if you've never done one, just getting involved. There are small organizations. There's so much you can Google out on different organizations who need a website or who need help with their technical projects, and ways that you can become involved in hackathons or community tech days. Also, creating quality products and features. So creating applications and different features, those are needs. Those are definitely ways how you can contribute to, the overall success of organizations, and how you can take up space in that way. Also, as a leadership opportunity, ways in leadership to take up space. Leading teams, local and global. I know for myself, I've had the experience of leading global teams and also cross-organizational teams. I led a team of 20 software developers. We were all global. We were in different time zones and working on different things, but really being proactive to dive in and say, hey, I know this is a large project, and also too, my manager saw my work and knew that, I could take on this responsibility. And I also put myself out there as well. So executing vision and strategy. So if there's projects that, everyone knows that you have, the expertise or experience around, and even if everyone doesn't know and you want to step up and take the lead, you definitely can do that. And also managing technical requirements. So if there's a project and your overall team, they don't know how to get there, but you have a roadmap in mind and how to get you all there, definitely, raise your hand up for that. Definitely put yourself out there. So now we want to take a look at, what a leadership role could look like. So definitely, what would your dream leadership role look like in tech? So if you've had some time to write this down, or just take stock of, what would I want to do? Here's some leadership roles to let you know what is possible. So definitely a tech lead is one of the technical leadership roles you can look at. A technical lead is a software engineer who guides the technical vision and execution of a software project. A technical lead also does not have direct reports or management responsibilities, and they are more experienced than their peers, and they show great leadership skills and potential. So depending on the company, I will say this is a baseline for what a tech lead, their responsibilities are going to look like. In some companies, just depending on the company again, the manner of, management responsibilities and technical direct reports they have, that may change. This is basically the baseline, and they're usually more experienced. So if there is there are junior developers that are coming in. A technical lead will work with them to make sure, their process is smooth if that particular role is at a certain company. So also some engineering leadership roles. So this role, an engineering lead, this role has a small number of direct reports, about 2 to 3. They spend about 80% of their time as an independent contributor on a software project and 20% on people management and leadership activities. And it's usually a training role for an engineering manager opportunity. So the operational standpoint also to engineering lead, they do have some training in operations as well as the engineering manager and what that could look out like from building technical infrastructure. So now we're getting into the engineering manager. So this role entails being responsible for the team and their projects. Engineering managers, they have up to 10 direct reports, and sometimes depending on the size of the company, it could be a few more, but normally the baseline is about 10. They also, are responsible for the team's career path growth and also business growth. And they're responsible for business deliverables, technical debt, and coding standards. So these are all the things that normally an engineering manager would have scope of. So let's look at the executive engineering leadership. So one of the roles, would be a director of engineering. So this particular role is often in charge of development and QA functions. He or she typically reports to the VP of engineering. Their responsibilities include setting the direction for an engineering department, to being in charge of the entire engineering organization. Also, directors are responsible for setting or approving, and establishing department guidelines, and also to how policies and budgets are put in place. So, I know right now within my role, I am tasked with pretty much most of these roles right here, and even developing the budget for what our technical department, the needs are, and also based on previous forecasts from last year to this year. So that's a little bit about the director of engineering. Also, let's take a look at C-suite executive leadership. And I know sometimes, starting out, we don't have our eye on this path, and sometimes we do. But this is just to give you an eye on the scope of what executive leadership roles entail. So a VP of technology, it's pretty much the vice president of technology. This is a senior executive role with a broad range of responsibilities. Typically, the VP manages other managers and directors. In smaller organizations, they may have some hands-on coding duties, but that's usually not the norm. In larger organizations, VPs are focused on higher level duties, and they don't have coding duties at all. Responsibilities can include long-term technical and product strategy, and also building policies, defining process, and building relationships with vendors. And usually that's going to be a part of higher level management too. I know right now in my particular role, I manage and hold contracts and manage relationships with vendors as well. So building that technical infrastructure from a higher level. So the CTO is pretty much, really standard at technical companies, and you all have probably seen this. And in some companies, they may not have a CTO, just depending on the budget, but most do. So at larger companies, the CTO is responsible for improving the technical foundation of the company. At startups, the CTO may be a self-appointed technical co-founder. In some cases, the CTO is responsible for the complete product development and developing technical product vision and being the face of the company's technology. So typically in smaller startups, you may have one of the co-founders who, they've been an engineer for quite a few years, over 10 to 15 years of experience, and they're really well versed in that. They may go to their co-founder strategy meetings and say, hey, I know we need a CTO, but I'd like to nominate myself for this position. So, those discussions start happening at smaller startups, but this is typically the CTO role. And also we have the CIO. Now, the Chief Information Officer, they can have a wide range of experience within their background. But just to let you know, this is an operations, oriented executive. So they may have, really finance and operations in their background, and also too, leading companies or even building their own, information. It's spread so vastly. So, any work setting strategy and direction to enhance the company's internal infrastructure and technical operations, they pretty much have a good realm of that. Their responsibilities include implementing employee software tools, internal communication, technical infrastructure, process control, access control, employee network, also cost management, integration of technologies across the business as well. A lot of that building high level process across the organization is what the chief information officer is going to do. So they work at a very high level, and their skill set, they could have a background, like I said, in founding their own technical companies, and also across marketing and strategy as well. So, steps to initiate a pathway to leadership in tech. So, these are some of the ways that I think that you can stand out and really move into a pathway to leadership. So, this is what it looks like when you are interested in building a pathway to leadership in tech. These are some of the things that you can do to help you, and also some of the things that you may have interest in already that you're doing. You know, Number one, I'll just say, just stepping up, help your peers by providing feedback on pull requests. So and this is if you're already a software developer, or if you're on your way to becoming a software developer, providing feedback where you can and helping folks with their code, and pull requests. Volunteer to present on project updates, propose updates to your team workflow or product release plans, and also offering to help with code reviews as well. And this is where you can really dig into the code before it goes to production and really see, okay, this is what we need to work on. This needs to be better, or look at our debugging and testing process. Also, the next thing, building relationships. So you want to start building good relationships with engineering managers, tech leads, and product managers. Really, you want to be a standout. You want to let them know about your work. Presenting talks, like technical talks, facilitating workshops, and mentoring other developers. So any way that you can present your work and really bring that back to management, that's really a good thing. Your work stands out and it speaks for itself, and you can build your portfolio this way. Coding and designing a pathway to leadership in tech and what that could look like. So from a technical expertise standpoint, showing strong experience as a software engineer, keeping skills sharp to build on higher level architecture, and becoming one of the strongest engineers on the team. So we all know technology moves at the speed of light. So once something that you learned 2 or 3 years ago, there's technology that you're going to build onto that. I started doing technical talks on React hooks probably about 2 or 3 years ago. So now we're on the second phase of that. There's so much more out here now that I'm learning and growing in my tool set that I'll be doing talks on too, that has elevated. So, showing that strong experience, if there's something wrong, just leading on, hey, this code is not up to par for our production, and your portfolio, it's going to speak for itself. The work, the feature code updates, anything that you're building, it's really going to show. Also showing ownership. So being accountable, being a self-starter, owning a piece of the business or product, not placing blame on others for missed deadlines or missed bugs. So really being accountable, because you're going to be accountable to your team. And really everyone on the team is you're accountable for your work, well, accountable to each other, because you definitely don't want anything holding up the process. So once, managers and leads start to knowing, like, hey, this person is really showing accountability, they're stepping up, they're proposing to the team, different projects or strategy goals of how we can get to the next phase of a project. Once you've been seen and noticed for that, people really have a good eye on noticing, this person, we have this role coming up. We think you'd be great for it. We've noticed over the past, those talks, you may have someone from upper level management coming to you that's noticed all your hard work. So here's some way you can, speaking into a pathway to leadership for folks to, notice you in this way. Clear communication of requirements and deadlines to the team. Having the ability to break down complex technical jargon or problems to simple terms. And being able to motivate your team. So that's what it looks like from a communication standpoint. Also, mentorship, being a team player, offering pair programming sessions, code reviews, lunch and learn presentations, and also participating in open source projects. So, if you're a person that you like to dig into the code sets a little bit more, or UX strategy sessions, and you want to plan a lunch and learn for your overall team, your manager or pretty much the person who's mentoring you, depending on your organization, because manager role titles are going to change out and they're going to be interchangeable. If they're noticing the work that you're doing there, it's definitely getting noticed to move you up higher. And these are some of the things, participating in open source projects like Hacktoberfest that happens in October of every year. And some companies already have open source tools. And if they notice that you're always working on that tool to make it better and work on updates to the code base in GitHub or Bitbucket or whatever version control that your company uses, that's going to be critical as well. So we talked about how, leading at work, how you can step up at your job now. And also too, if you're not currently in an internship or, you're thinking about moving into an internship or an apprenticeship, those were some ways we just talked about how you can, step up and step out of your comfort zone to be a leader. Now we're going to talk about leading in the community, how you can show up and, really lead from a community standpoint. So the first thing, volunteer. So, teaching others how to code, helping community organizations build their technical infrastructure. There are, nonprofits and small organizations who, they just may not have the funds to hire a large software engineering team. And you can reach out to them to help them. You can do a website design audit, a UX design and research audit for them. Also going to meetups, volunteering to speak at meetups or volunteering to lead on a meetup. There are organizations like Women Who Code, Code 2040, and also Women in Technology. And I will say, I know these have the word women in them, but at Women Who Code, and Code 2040 and all of these organizations, there's usually not a discrimination factor. Usually at Women Who Code, I know we have a code of conduct that we would put up for each of our webinars to let folks know no matter who you are free to join. Now you can check out Code 2040 and Women in Technology, their code of conduct and their standards on their website. But I know I was the first Women Who Code front-end technical track architect for that particular online community. So I pretty much built and grew that community to over 1,500 developers. So I know we were very inclusive and I was very adamant about that. So also building projects for nonprofits, giving back to nonprofits. So reaching out to help build their website or refactor their code base, update new features and tools, and also serve as a product owner or product manager. So a lot of times nonprofits, when they're just starting out or even along the way, they have specific budgets and, the way they get their grants. And a lot of times if you don't have a traditional apprenticeship or internship, helping a nonprofit, that's a way to get some experience on your resume and into your portfolio. So this is another way when folks see you're leading, you could be, a lead developer or a lead designer on some work for a nonprofit. This is a way to get you noticed. Also building projects for local startups, reach out to startups who are looking for new talent. Show them your portfolio and let them know you are willing to help. Offer to help as a software developer, UX designer, or product specialist. And also too, your profile, that's how that technology company, show them your profile and how you're going to build that as well along the way. Because one of the things, um, you want to make reference to, what you're doing on LinkedIn. And also, if you're building your profile anywhere else that is on something like Medium, if you're writing any technical articles, but usually startups, depending on where they are in their round of funding, when they're first starting out, they need folks to help. That's a way that you can come in and become a leader right away when you're helping to build startups from the ground up. So it's going to be a different process each time, you know, depending on where a startup is and what they need you to do. But, just being proactive to reach out to local startups in the community. And you can definitely Google. And also, if you're a part of different community Slacks as well, that's where you're going to find a lot of these particular things. Like I know, for instance, again, referencing Women Who Code and the local community organization Slacks that they have. Also, we have different things such as Code 404, I want to say, is one of them as well in the Atlanta area. And there's so many different technical platforms out there as well. Public speaking. So let's get into this. Now, this is another way, building your presence as a thought leader. You know, and a lot of times we'll think about, well, wow, we're looking at this person on YouTube or, on a panel. You can do, again, technical talks, facilitating workshops, code labs and design labs, and be a moderator or a panelist on a panel. And so I have done quite a bit of public speaking for, organizations such as General Assembly, and, they teach technical skills. Also, just local community organizations. Again, Women Who Code, I did our closing keynote for our Connect Digital conference last summer and spoke at a lot of our Connect summits. One of our first summits for the Women Who Code front end global community track I did in Berlin, Germany last year. So it is a lot that you can do. I was on several panels. I've been on podcasts as well. And, this is all ways that you can build yourself as a thought leader in the technology space. And this will definitely get you noticed as an expert, and this can get you noticed to move into those leadership positions. Another thing I will say too, with building code labs and design labs, if you have, a curriculum or a project you want to start out with, when facilitating workshops, if it's your first one, I would say try doing about 35 to 45 minutes. Usually, workshops, they last about 1 hour, but if you have content to last 35 to 45 minutes just as a starter, I think that would be a good route to go as well. So what creating leadership impact looks like. So creating your impact statement. These are some of the things, and I just used my example of, being the Women Who Code front end leadership architect when I was director for that community, what my impact statement looked like. So these are some of the things you can think about, how you're going to really focus your impact statement. So and these are things you can put on your resume and in your portfolio. So say, for instance, for my example, I put, grew front-end development community to 1,200 plus members, and that was in a span between 6 to 9 months. Built organic following on social media to 1K. And I think it was a little bit over that, probably about 1,100, but 1K followers in 9 months. Led a global team of 20 developers, leads, and evangelists. Also, for this particular community organization, outside of my work of leading 20 developers at work, led the CFP Tech Talk process to be on the conference speaker selection team, and also performed tech talks and closing keynotes. So if you kind of just jot out the things that you have done, whether it's in a community role, at a startup role, and even in your work role, this is going to help you with your impact statement. Like some companies like to do, working in the nonprofit space, and I've worked with nonprofits as well in the technical sense. They do impact reports. This is how you can do an impact statement or impact report for yourself, and then use those particular, bullet points and add those things to your resume. You definitely want to tailor your resume to what position you're going for, though, and pertain, those items to, meeting the skills that your resume, whatever you're applying to, your resume needs to match that. But you definitely want to show the impact, of your leadership and how you led on projects and how you led in the community. That's definitely something you want to do. So taking a look ahead at some resources. So these are all great resources, I think, as far as showing, what technical meetups could look like, how to show tech impact. Also to, looking at engineering leadership roles and skills needed to be successful as a tech lead. These are all things, and I think just really great resources to get into when you're looking at really sharing, what your impact could be as a leader in the technology space. And these are some articles that helped me as well. So I'd just like to say thank you for taking the time to listen to this talk. Please get in touch with me at jponder77. I'm on Twitter under that particular name, and also on LinkedIn as Jennifer Ponder. Definitely, if you have questions, reach out to me. I was definitely excited to do this talk. And also reach out to me if you're looking at getting into a leadership role right now and you'd like a little bit more guidance on some things that could help you. So definitely hope this talk really will help you create your own pathway to leadership. And I'll see you online next time.